over the years, the Association of Indigenous Construction Contractors of Nigeria have called on the federal government to prioritize the patronage of local contractors because of the possible positive ripple effect such a policy is capable of having on the economy. In addition to the gains accruable to the nation, the policy is expected to go a long way in building a resilient indigenous construction industry that will rival the foreign companies. But joining me now to look at some of these issues in that industry is the CEO, Inclusive Concrete and Engineering Limited, Engineer Opeyemi Aminu. Thank you for coming on the show.
Good morning.
Aminu. Right. Now, Nigerian engineers have complained over time about marginalization, especially in the construction industry and particularly on government projects. How bad is the situation?
Well, the situation is still very bad because we have a situation where the big businesses still go to the foreign companies, and the indigenous companies are still rattling with the small ones, which of course is not good for us. So we need to look at this together and see how we solve the problem. Over time, the government has complained, or their reason has been capacity on the side of indigenous company. If the problem is capacity, what do we do to it? Let's go back to government and look at why government is there in the first instance. I have observed as a person that the orientation of governance in Nigeria is wrong. While the government is supposed to have people at the top of their agenda, what we have now is infrastructure on the top of the agenda. The infrastructure is supposed to revolve around the people. How has the infrastructure affected the people? That's what we should look into. The primary purpose of government is the well-being of the people as well as the security of the people, right? Now, if we put people at the center of government program, then we want to construct for the betterment of the people. We want to have health care facility for the betterment of the people. We want to have airport for the purpose of the people, right? When we do this, of course, we will be looking towards everything is centered around the people, right? When you construct a road, you stand to benefit two things from it. One is social, the other one is economic. The social, it takes us from this place to that place in a very comfortable manner. The economics is what have we been able, what is the economic value of a road? We need to look into it. When we invest, road construction is an investment. When you invest on it, what do you get in return?
Okay.
You get it on the economic value. Now, going back to your question, you see, if we are to solve the problem of capacity, three things. We need to do three things. One is that the government posture towards the indigenous contractor has to change. It has to change from a zero-sum game, master-servant relationship, to a win-win situation, collaboration between the government and the indigenous contractors. Collaboration, win-win. That is one. Number two is patronage. No business can grow without patronage. Look at Channels. The last time I was there, the big building there wasn't there. Today it is there. You have built it. Your capacity is going to improve. Your size is gone up. It's because you have the patronage. You have the confidence of the people. We patronize you. And when we patronize you, we pay. If we don't pay, if we are owing you, you can't put up that edifice. If you don't pay local contractors in full, you are holding down their capacity. You are holding down their economic power. So how do they grow the capacity? Without you patronizing them or patronizing us and paying for that service.
Now, when we talk about capacity here, it also involves trainings, not just the trainings we get basic education. For instance, you read engineering in school. Now, you have an association of indigenous engineers, all right, and in the construction industry. You had said that the government talks about capacity.
Yes.
You know, I mean, the indigenous contractors don't have that capacity. Your association, what are you doing in that regard to actually grow that capacity within your team?
You know, the good thing about this is that nobody has come out to say that we are not competent.
Good.
No government at the state, at the federal level, no one has come out to say we are not competent. Okay. When it comes to the issue of competence, we are very competent.
So what are the basic and peculiar challenges you indigenous engineers are actually facing in this industry?
Look, the number one challenge, like I said, is that we need government to change their posture to us.
When you talk about posture, okay, patronage.
Yes. Okay. You know, posture means that we collaborate to develop the indigenous capacity. You patronize us. When you patronize us, you pay on time. When that happens, we will develop, you know, capacity in terms of machinery. But when it comes to competency, we are there. We are the major people in those even foreign companies. And we have our own companies too. You know, we are very competent and we can do this job. I mean, I can't, how do you explain a Chinese or Chinese coming here to build a pedestrian bridge for us? That's ridiculous. Nigerian engineers, we've been able to build skyscrapers. So what is wrong in us building pedestrian bridge?
No, but these indigenous contractors have actually been accused of poor quality of work, okay, which explains the reason perhaps the foreigners are chosen. I mean, they will call it Nigerian thing, trying to maximize profit, and they end up giving out poor quality
jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, I'm going to take you far away to Guangzhou as well as Shanghai, right? If you get to Guangzhou, the downtown, the last time I was there, I saw a lot of bridges that were constructed at the early stage of the Chinese. Not as very good as what they give today. They develop from certain level to another over time. If they don't allow their people to do the job, how do they develop in quality? How do they develop in capacity? How do they develop financially? You see, all these things goes together. You want to train yourself, you want to acquire equipment, you want to do some financial engineering within your company. All these things goes together. All these things comes together to make a company. When you don't have that source, then it is difficult for you to grow. It is difficult for you to grow quality. And again, let me address this issue of quality. It is not true that we don't deliver quality projects. It is not true. We have done a lot of projects for federal and state government that have qualities that are, you know, comparable to what the foreign companies are delivering to us. I give you an instance. Go to Oshodi Park that is being constructed. It's done by indigenous companies. And the standard, you can't tell me, is not up to international standard. Go to Ilubiri here, and you see skyscrapers rising up there. They were constructed by indigenous companies. We did the piling. We have done the structure. What it means is that we are capable of delivering. You understand?
Yeah, but recently we've witnessed, you know, a series of building collapse, you know, in the country. So what do you think is responsible for that? And who are those responsible for constructing such buildings?
Okay. Building collapse is not peculiar to Nigeria alone. Let's get that clear.
But
I have a record of building collapse in United States of America. We have had bridge collapse in Italy. We have had collapse in China. We have had collapse in India. Of course, I'm not justifying that our building should collapse. The point in there is that building collapse is not peculiar to Nigeria. That is a fact that is very variable. Now, let's come to your question. Why do we have collapse? What can we do to it? Let's come back to Lagos. Let's look at VIA and Ikoyi. When was the last time building collapsed there?
We had one around Lagos Island.
Yes, you can see it.
Yeah.
We don't have an history of collapse in VI. We don't have an history of collapse in Ikoyi.
So why do we have that on the
yes,
Lagos Island?
Yes, I'll tell you why. You see, when you employ people that are not competent to build your house for you, then you can have collapse. Let's narrow it down. Let me come to the construction segment of building, okay? In Nigeria, 80 to 90% of concrete processing is still being done by the locals. 80 to 90% of the concrete construction in Lagos here is being done by the locals.
Artisans.
Yes, right? And these are the people that don't understand the science of concrete. They don't understand the missing ratio.
So why would you have to use them?
They don't understand the admixtures. Yes, you see, what we are saying is that because the owner of those buildings that have come down employ people that are not competent to handle their construction, that's why, that was why it came down. And in most cases, between VIA and Ikoyi, you have competent contractors in there. They understand the science, and they apply the science. And you can't tell me that you have reported here in China, for instance, that a building came down in VI or Ikoyi. If you give job to us, the professionals, I'm telling you that building will not come down because we understand the science, because we have competent engineers. They work in all the multinationals, and they are doing very well, to be honest with you. You see, first of all, giving you the examples around the globe that, yeah, accidents do happen, but again, it should not be too frequent. And when it happens, what we expect is that we look into why it has happened, and we forestall why it has happened. I've given you one now. That is the concrete handling in Nigeria. We need to change the face. It is time that we change the face. I'm sure most of us, when we are building, we have experienced it. We're going to, when it is the time for us to do the decking, what we have are the locals. They come in there and they do it for us. We call them, they come in there, they do it for us because we don't want to pay professional. Even when we are not too expensive, you still run away from us. Says? Yeah, we are not too expensive. You still run away from us. So the concrete aspect of the building, coincidentally, that is taking care of the compressive load.
So if you don't get it right.
If you don't get it right, it crumbles. It comes down over time. It gives away gradually, and over time, it comes down. But when you get it right, I bet you it will remain there. That's why you see buildings that have been there for 30, 40, 50 years, and nothing happened. And good enough now, concrete has improved to withstand certain degrees of earthquake, certain degrees of natural disaster. But you see, they have left us behind in all these things. They have left us behind, no doubt. But again, we can remedy the situation. How to remedy it is to look at where we have the issue and we solve it.
Okay. Now, the government in recent time has issued some executive orders to promote patronage of indigenous professionals. To what extent has the impact of these executive orders been felt, by you guys?
Well, I don't like to praise things, but again, when something good is done, I like to, acknowledge it. Because when it is not done rightly, I criticize as a person. I would rather praise the government for two things that have happened in the recent time. One is that the Korean Act was amended to favor the indigenous contractors, indigenous engineers. Two was the Executive Order 5 issued by the President. I must commend the government on this. It's good, it's fantastic. We're still at the early stage of those orders and the amendment. It was done just recently. So If we have collaboration from the government operators, from the ministers, from the governors, from the ministries, if we have collaboration, like I said earlier, then we would apply all these laws and rules, and again, the patronage increases, the capacity grows up, and we can compete. Again, let me mention this. If you give me job, for instance, or the indigenous contractors, you don't pay. What you have done is to ask me to run with somebody while you are holding one leg down. If you hold a leg down and you are saying, compete with that man, I can't run because you are holding me down. Don't forget again that the CECC that is competing with us is a state-owned enterprise. Check the record. It's the second most profitable company out of the state-owned enterprises. Check the record. And you see, to boost the business of CECC, 2013, what happened in China? The present president introduced Belt and Road Initiative and is backing it up with $1 trillion US.
And also trying to support Africa in that regard.
Yes, last year in Africa, South Africa, he pledged $60 billion to Africa. And that's why you see the rail that is going from Lagos to Ibadan and it's extending, right? You see, we have to be careful in here. We need to really see into what the Chinese are doing, and we look at how we take the advantage of it. When they give such loan, what happens, one, is that they are the one that will undertake the construction. Meaning that the profit in the construction, it goes back to China. Two is the heavy equipment industry. They use their equipment, the Chinese equipment, that's what they use. The heavy equipment industry there continues to do what? To blossom. The third one is that when that rail project is completed, that's what we'll be using to carry all the containers in Apapa, meaning that it makes it easy to distribute Chinese goods. Right. Then the last benefit that they have there is that they have given us loan. We'll pay the capital, we'll pay the interest. That's an invisible income over time, right? So the government, their government has critically put this down in order to benefit them.
Yeah, but how can even the Nigeria, for instance, take advantage of such?
That's good. That's good. You see, if we are to take advantage of it, there are some steps we need to take. They are building the rail line for us. How many of Nigerian company has Federal Ministry of Transport contracted to understudy what they are doing? How many? Minimum, we're supposed to have 2. They will be contracted, not free, to understudy what the Chinese are doing. When we understudy them, we would have gained the technology. That is number one. Number two, over time, we'll be able to maintain it and keep it working. Okay? Then the third one is that when we have to do similar projects in the future, rather than running to China, we'll look at the people that have understudied here and say that, can you construct a rail line between Abeokuta and Shagamu? And our money stays here, and it doesn't go back to Beijing.
All right, thank you very much for your time, Engineer. I mean, I'm sure it's an ongoing discussion, and we'll continue to talk about it, and hopefully something positive will definitely come out. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, it's my pleasure being here. Thank you very much.
We'll take another break now. When we come back, we'll look at the trading day. You stay with us.